Hi, my name is Katie Bell, and I work for the University of Illinois Extension in Southern Illinois. Today we're going to be talking about soils. We're going to start by talking about soil texture. There are three main soil textures. We have sand, silt, and clay. And that refers to both the particle size and then the texture aspect whenever we feel a soil, whether it feels gritty or smooth, how well it holds water, and then also creates airspace whenever it's laying in a soil profile. So when we talk about soil texture, our biggest particle is sand. So sand, silt, and clay are our three mineral particles. Mineral particles come from a base or parent material derived from rock that is broken down over thousands and thousands of years by a combination of water erosion, wind erosion, and general wear and tear on the base or parent material, so our base rock. And depending on how far these have been broken down, depends on the texture and the size of the soil particle. So first we have sand, which is our coarsest and largest particle. Sand most generally feels like something like sugar, so we can see the individual particles here as well as feel the coarseness or the grittiness, and you can almost hear a sound of them rubbing together. So sugar is a good example of sand. And then our next largest particle is silt, which is somewhere between clay and sand in size. And if we were to make sand the size of a basketball or a kickball, then silt would be approximately the size of a baseball. Silt has a texture similar to flour, so it's much smoother than a coarse sand, but you can still tell that there is some variation in the particles. It's much harder to separate out individual particles or to be able to see them with the naked eye. And so silt has a much smoother, finer texture than sand. And our finest particle is clay. So in relation to sand and silt, clay would be about the size of a ping pong ball or smaller. In our household kind of experiment here, clay would be if clay were dry, it would be most similar in texture to something like cornstarch. So very silky, almost impossible to feel any individual particles, and you wouldn't be able to pick out an individual clay particle with your naked eye. You'd have to have a microscope. Whenever this is wet, its clay has a very sticky texture and it holds together very well. Something like modeling clay, making sculptures, is what you can think of as clay in the natural world. So this is soil that was taken from a garden bed, and it does have a good mixture of sand, silt, and clay. And the reason that we've been talking about these individual particles is so that we can understand a comprehensive soil texture. Soil texture refers to how much sand, silt, and clay a soil has within it. So and we want a good mixture of each, because if we have too much clay, it will form too tightly together, not allow water to pass through, and it can be very difficult for roots to move within the soil. But an extremely sandy soil will not allow water to pass through, will allow water to run through and not hold it for the roots to be able to extract the nutrients and water that they need. So we want a good mixture of both sand, silt, and clay so that we have the right balance. So this soil here, it's a little bit difficult to tell what exactly it's made of, but as I roll it through my fingers, I can feel a little bit of grittiness. I can feel some smoothness. It does want to clump together. This is fairly dry, but as you can see, it's making a little bit of a clump. So that tells us there's at least some clay in there. Probably not a lot, but at least some. And so this is a pretty good example of a fairly healthy soil. I have done kind of a home soil stratification test, which is where you will put a little bit of soil in a jar. So about a third of it is soil and then 2/3 water. And then you can see that it has started to separate into its different layers. So our bottom layer is our heaviest particles, which is our sand particles, and they fell out first. And then this middle layer here is our silt, and then this very thin, lighter brown layer here at the top is what's starting to form our clay. And as this sits and begins to settle out, more and more clay will fall out of the water. So there's still a lot of clay suspended within the water. And then any organic matter or broken down plant or animal remains will float along the very, very top, and they'll be very dark.